Great, thank you. Phone turned off, yes. Okay. We ready? Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marilanda Caballero. I hereby call our August 20th, 2019 Beautification Committee to order. We will now take roll call. Item 1. Here?
Present.
Here.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Mari. I now need a motion to excuse any absent members from our meeting tonight. Do I have a motion on the floor?
I second.
What's that noise?
It's your voice.
Oh, okay. I'll make the motion.
No,
If nobody else.
there's
There's
sound
a-
coming out. Okay. Excuse us for that. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Okay,
I second.
Mr. Santana seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. The motion carries. We will now go move on to item 1B, the invocation for this evening's meeting. Let us just pause for a moment to be mindful of God's grace and God's goodness, His presence that is always upon us. Father God, we want to praise and thank you again for allowing us this opportunity to be present, to serve you, to honor you with our good works and our good deeds. We ask you, dear Lord, to be guiding us so that everything that we do is not for our good, but for your honor and your glory and for the best of our community here at the city of Pharr. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We move on to item 2 on the agenda, administrative. Item A, approval of the minutes for July 24th, 2019. If need be, do we need to take a moment, or has everyone gone over their minutes? We're okay? Okay. I need a motion on the floor to approve the minutes for the date of July 24th, 2019.
I so move, with the exception of making a minor correction on item I. It's the second line that we have there, which is on Expressway 281, which is being used as a dumping area. I think the word used needs to be inserted.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Carranza has a motion on the floor to have the minutes approved with this addition / correction of this word to be added. And I now need a second on that motion, please.
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Ramirez seconds the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion is unanimously passed. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right, so we move on to administrative. Item 2B. Just to recap, to go over our target goals that we took from the Keep Texas Beautiful conference in June. Item 1 was the Adopt a Highway program. I'm not sure if anyone from Public Works has anything to add on the Adopt a Highway, but I would like to just mention that our goal there is the program is already in place in Pharr, as far as there are right-of-ways that some organizations and or companies have chosen to sponsor to keep clean. What our plan is as a committee and as working together with Public Works and the City of Pharr is to enhance that program by identifying those right-of-ways that are still left to be adopted. 1, finding organizations and or companies or groups to take on those sponsorships of those right-of-ways that are still available for adoption. And 3, those that had been adopted in the past, going over have they been keeping up with their responsibility in their sponsoring of that right of way? And if so, just making sure that they are on the up and up with, keeping up with their responsibility. And if they're not, what can we do as a partnership to identify what's missing, if they perhaps no longer want to participate as a sponsor, and maybe find someone else to replace them. So our goals are to expand and develop the Adopt a Highway program here, those right-of-ways that TxDOT has available for us here in the city of Pharr, which ultimately would beautify our city. Does anybody from Public Works have anything to add on that?
Good evening, board members. For the record, my name is Reynaldo Cano. I am the Public Works Assistant Director. Just a brief update on the Adopt a Highway program. We do have someone that is willing to sponsor it, which is going to be Top Golf. I did receive information as far as which street can be adopted from TxDOT, and that location will be on US 281 between Gabriela Avenue all the way to Jeff Drive. This will be between the Crime Stoppers, and it will also be between the Pharr Firemen's. So we have a 2-mile stretch right there that can be adopted. I do have the application. My next step is to get in contact with Top Golf to give them the information that they need, and also the location that is available to them. I will be getting additional information as far as where other streets can be adopted, and then we can go from there, either go with Girl Scouts, or we go with Boy Scouts or Lions Club, et cetera, different organizations that might be interested in adopting a highway. On that note, that's all I have for Adopt a Highway program, unless you have any other questions. Oh, I'm sorry, there is no fee for it. So they can automatically just adopt it. All they need to do is just fill out the application. They are provided with the sign by TxDOT. TxDOT will also do their traffic control as far as the time and the day that they want to organize the cleanup. It is for four consecutive cleanups during that year, but they can also go during our OCS, where we can organize also with them any kind of traffic control that they might need.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cano? Nobody has any questions. When we were at the conference, we identified that this was an area that was already something that we could just touch on and expand upon. So I really appreciate, Mr. Cano, that you took care of that for us, and that you reached out for that application, and Topgolf has said yes, and all that good stuff. We look forward to bringing more organizations on board to help us out in the future, and so I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
If there's no questions on this one, I'd like to jump straight into the one of the Youth Clean Pharr.
Yes.
That is another thing that we had spoken about as far as getting the youth involved. Right now we have the Girl Scouts that are donating 2 trash bins that are going to be placed here at City Hall. That is one way that we're going to be bringing in the youth to get them involved as far as doing the cleanup. We also, as the time gets closer, what we want to do is get involved, get the rec aides from the Parks and Rec, those youth, to try and help us out again to educate the public, so we can further our efforts in cleaning up.
Does anybody have any questions regarding
I
that?
have one. What's the minimum age? Do we know that we want to?
Minimum age as far as
for the Girl Scouts.
for the Girl Scouts,
Uh-huh.
I'm not
I
sure
think-
what their
are they 8 years
standards are.
old? I think they're 8 years old.
We don't want too young.
Well,
Yeah.
they're donating the actual structure, correct?
Mhm.
And I know that at OCS, we've seen Girl Scouts present, but with their sponsors and/or
Yes.
parents. So they're not obviously alone.
Okay.
What I do want to touch, with your help, please don't sit down yet. When I put this target goal into the agenda of Youth Clean Pharr, it's just a topic. Our vision came from, again, the Keep Texas Beautiful conference, where one of our neighboring cities did incorporate their high school youth into cleanups and or plantings. And after brainstorming, we thought, well, you know, we have a great deal of youth from the high schools mostly that show up to our OCS. And in brainstorming some more, obviously the youth is where it's at. What we also learned is reducing is also where it's going to be at. And if we could later on, as we grow the program, start going smaller and smaller in the age category, but for now, the hope is to try to attract our youth and maybe perhaps create a youth corps under the Beautification Committee. And that youth corps would be identified by possibly T-shirts, and they would be, my vision is be brought in to help us not only at OCSs, but whenever we have events that are city sponsored. For example, this weekend, and I'm saying we're going to implement it already because it's not going to happen, but this weekend, is it Nemo showing at the Aquatic Center? Okay, for example, my thought is, once we get these young men and women in place, we could have this core of youth, ask them to show up with their shirts, and somehow the city has already put up recycling bins for just water bottles, plastics, like Gatorade and water. And because those things are sold at the concession stand, I believe.
Yes.
So my vision is that we get the youth, not necessarily rec aides or city employees now. Now we're incorporating our youth community to be the ones educating our community.
Yes.
So we educate them, and they in turn educate. And they become our core of youth that are out there slowly changing the thought process. And then my vision is to even reach out to the principals at these high schools and say, how about a small club or organization? You have various organizations at the high schools. Maybe there's a biology or science teacher that would love to take on a small group of youth that are interested in the recycling, reducing, the whole thought process of saving or lightening up our footprint, right? So, you know, we're starting with what we have, and we have Girl Scouts. We have young men and women from the honor societies that are showing up because obviously they need the hours. But the hope is to grow this through the year and maybe target next school year the middle school, and then the following school year the elementary kids, like 5th graders, you know, because they're mature enough, they're young enough but yet mature enough, and grow the program to where we have this great youth corps that are out there helping to beautify and save our city, you know, because from itself,
Yes,
really.
yes.
And so that's just that's where that topic came in, and we picked that up from a neighboring city, and it's just, you know, and we could use them at HubFest. We could use them at, I know that we recently had the 4th of July. Any event that the city has where you're going to get a number of people. For example, this past Sunday at the DRC, there was an event from 6 to 8 to attract the community to address going back to school, getting the community excited about going back to school. And my understanding is there was about 200 people there, kids and, you know, family, and there would have been a great opportunity for a handful of youth corps, of youth young men and women to be present with their T-shirts, just helping to teach kids, hey, you know what, let's throw that water bottle in this bin. This is for plastics, you know. Hey, why don't you rinse that out? Or, you know, let's save where's the lid on that? Let's not just throw the lid on the floor, you know, the little white cap. Little footsteps.
The concept has great potential, but it's gonna be up to a lot of people to implement it and get it going and label it as something successful, but it can be done, you know.
And that's the hope is there, and I know that it's a big dream, but the only way we're going to change the
And also tell you that there are many educators throughout the district in every level of education that are very pro-environmental. You know, they're going to go out of their way to encourage their students and their charges, you know, to lead a life where we're stewards of the land, and we're going to make them, you know, help the environment. So I think the support will be there.
I hope so. And I was thinking we could get them to come out and do, they can come to a field trip out at Public Works. There's a number of things, they don't have to be involved weekly,
Yeah.
but maybe something, but there's a lot of high school kids that would be motivated because they need the hours for community service, and now most every college now is requiring some sort of, so that's kind of the catch, but I'm hoping that they get that other return, that feeling that they're doing something for their
Sure.
community, so, yes. Any questions for Mr. Cano, or?
Just
Yes, sir.
to get back on the subject with the Girl Scouts.
Yes, sir.
The Girl Scouts are Troop 208. They will be here on Thursday, the 22nd, to deliver those trash bins. And we're asking if any beautification committee members can attend so we can take photos with the Girl Scouts. We're also requesting either a city manager or the deputy city manager to see if they can be present also for the photo ops.
What time would that be at, sir?
That will be at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
or 9:30?
9:30?
9:30.
And where will that be?
That'll be here at City Hall.
Here at City Hall? Is there anyone available that morning?
I would have to check, but I could be.
I know I'm out of town that day. Is there?
Yes, it'll be this
I'm out of town.
Thursday, the 22nd.
Okay. It'll be very brief.
just real
Okay, so
quick.
if any of you gentlemen, and then we'll reach out to Mr. Robles as well. I know she's out of town and I'm out of town. But, oh yeah, no, that would be very, very good. You're gonna try to get Mr. Mead or someone to be there.
We're trying, yes, I'm in the process of trying to get somebody there since it's kind of short notice,
No,
so.
yes. Very good, okay.
And you said what time?
It's, at 9:30 here at
9:30
City Hall.
a.m., August the 22nd.
Okay.
And you'll, so you know.
I'll try to make it. I've got an appointment in the morning, but.
Thank you, Mr. Cano. Thank you so much. Item B3, keep Pharr beautiful. So I am happy to report that last night at our city commission meeting, the third and final reading for the Keep Pharr Beautiful was held. That is changing the name from Beautification Committee to the Keep Pharr Beautiful Committee. We came back from the KTB conference, understanding that it was really needed to be on the same page with our communities.
Sure.
Our surrounding communities all have the Keep McAllen beautiful, Keep Brownsville beautiful. And so this way we're on the same page. So I want to thank Mr. Alex Mead. I want to thank our city attorney, Patricia Rigby. I wanted to say something else. Thank you. I really want to thank them for doing this for us. So I wanted to report that, and we're gonna, as you recall, everything we do as not only a committee, but as with Public Works or with anything having to do with the city of Pharr, we need to put that logo. It has to be, it has to be there, and that's as far as I forgot item 4, the GCAA awards, and that's for the documentation for we're gonna try very hard to fill out that award this year and see how well we fare. So that was the 4th and final target goal. So with that, we move on to Administrative 2C, our downtown mural. This afternoon, when we take our walking tour, we'll hopefully have a chance to walk around there. Is it locked, do you know? Okay, I know there's fencing, but I'd like to show you exactly where the mayor has vision for this mural. Also, in keeping with the decision that was made earlier or that we came to an agreement as a committee that we wanted cultural and we wanted historical. Mr. Sergio Alanis from Parks and Recreation, who has a lot of, I guess you could say, he has a lot of experience working with murals because of the murals that they've created throughout the city in the different parks. He has offered his assistance as well in creating a template. So the vision could be putting permanent murals on those templates or having them, as you know, there's murals that are ever changing in some of these parks. For example, over by the Pharr Parks and Recreation Center, which is the old Boys and Girls Club, there's some concrete walls there, and they're ever changing according to, like when they do the Halloween, it'll become kind of fun and Halloween with murals and stuff depicting the season. So that's still out on the that's still pending. I'm not saying that these murals should be seasonal. They should remain cultural. They should be historical. And so we're working on that. Mr. Adolfo Garcia from the library, he has been instrumental also in providing his assistance in information. I've spent some time in the archives room. Fascinating room if you ever have a chance to visit. Fascinating room. So we're going to keep working on that. And I know that the mayor's also asked about our input on landscaping. So, Mr. Carranza, we may be, hey there. So that's something to look forward to as well. All right, we move on to, if there's any questions on that. There's no more questions, we'll move on to Administrative 2D, status report on the recommendations by the Beautification Committee on South Pharr. We put this on the agenda only to remind us that there was some questions still pending on the 281 truck route signage. That signage is for those trucks inbound coming in off of the bridge heading northbound, and where we have the problem that they're coming into downtown and possibly for some reason not seeing the signage about that no big semis are supposed to be coming through town. Do we have any input on that, Mr. Cano?
Yes, ma'am, we do. Again, Public Works. On the signage, it does belong to, or the responsibility does belong to Public Works. So what we're going to be doing, or what we're doing right now, is adding additional signs to some of these intersections. Advanced warning signs, again, to warn the drivers before they get to the intersection, so they can either veer to the east or to the west, so they can avoid from going into town. What we were having a problem was the truck drivers were getting up to the intersection. By the time they would either notice the sign or see the sign, it was already too late. They were already committed and going through town. So what we're going to be doing is adding additional signs ahead of to warn them, to that way they can take proper precautions to either go east or west. It starts all the way from Dicker Road, where the signage starts. There are some intersections that do not have the signs that say no truck routes, not allowed, no trucks allowed. What we call is a Ghostbuster sign, which is an emblem of a truck, and it has like a slash like the Ghostbusters. Some of those intersections do not have them. If we're going to be doing that for some, we need to do it consistent through all the intersections, again, to let them know that they're not allowed to go through town.
And excuse me for asking, but so if they're coming on 281 and they're heading north, they get to Dickers Road, they turn east or west,
Yes.
and then they have to take what,
Jackson?
Jackson or Veterans Road.
Okay.
And again, the signs are there, but either they get distracted or they're just not paying attention. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make additional signs. We do have some in stock, but we're going to run out due to so many intersections. So we're going to have some outsourced and have them made.
Do you think that there's, that's gonna be enough, or do they need to be some that are flashing, like?
Why not?
Is the number enough? Is it so much putting up more, or do we need to actually amend some of the current signs by putting,
Make them more visible.
you know, like, hey, look at me, I know, you know, like, hey, look at me. I'm not an expert, I'm just,
Again, that's a cost that we're gonna be taking, and we're outsourcing the signs, so that would be something else that we could look into. But then we have to find either some kind of solar panels to where they can be constantly charged, or try and find some kind of electrical source that we can connect to.
anybody have any questions?
No, but we do realize it's an important task that you have, and we appreciate you undertaking that responsibility for us.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So don't sit down, just. We move on to item D2, the DRC signage. Again, it's on the agenda because there was still some things pending. Mr. Cano?
The pictures that you see right here are the before. We had anything on there, and I believe there's a picture that you all have that's floating around that has the letters on there already. If we can put that on the scrard
Yeah.
No?
It's coming.
It
Oh,
didn't
it did
send?
not send.
Okay, well,
Is it here?
yes, there's a picture there that I, hard copy, and it has the DRC, the Development Research Center. There is in the process right now to get a monument done for it, which is gonna be within our right of way. They're also gonna be doing like a time capsule. So again, it's a process. They need to get bids for it, and the design, is it gonna be stagnant? Is it gonna be lit up? We don't know yet, but it is in the process as far as trying to get that done, a monument.
Is that the complete name of the building?
As far as I
As
know,
far as it's not
yes.
Pharr development or anything like
Well,
I know that it's in Pharr.
well, because
and it belongs
it's
to
known as the
City.
DRC, so, I mean, if not, they would have to put the PDRC.
And the monument he's talking about is at the roadside, an actual identifying structure that says Development Research Center. And with it, it has that time capsule, and that, because of its large structure, it's going out to bid and all that good stuff. So, I'm sorry, my phone didn't send that out to you, Christopher. Okay. Well, that is a good thing, that we
Yes,
have this done.
so we finally have some kind of identification for the building.
Hats off to
Yes,
all of you.
thank you.
All of
Well,
you.
it was just a matter of kind of pushing the right buttons to try and get these people to,
Well, I'm glad somebody was able to do that. We
It's-
appreciate that.
It's been a while, and the building deserves to have a name on it.
Yes.
And thank you, Mr. Adolfo Garcia.
yes.
And también with the library.
See, and I can remember going to the garden, the community garden over there, and seeing this building, and I said, "What is this building?" And I drive, "What is this building?" And finally, when we had a tour, that's when I was enlightened. So thank you. Now anybody can drive by and see the signage.
Yeah.
there. Thank you.
It's used a lot. It's used a lot for meetings, not just city, but the police,
PD, state,
the state
county.
uses it, the county
It's
uses
big.
it. So, you
Mhm.
know, where's the development research, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you to all who made this possible. This was, it's been a yes. It's nice, it's so nice. So we move on, thank you again. We move on, don't sit down, Mr. Cano. We move on to D3. Again, these are all little bullets that we had based on our trolley ride that we took a while back, South Pharr. So this third and final concern was the fact that as you enter coming off the bridge off of 281 there in Military, and you're entering South Pharr proper, that northeast corner, has no welcome or identifying sign that says you're entering Pharr, welcome to the beautiful city of Pharr, or Gateway City, or whatever it is. So our thought was there should be something there. And with the help of Mr. Cano and those folks that he's reached out to, I think you've got more information for us today.
Yes, I do. On that northeast corner of 281 and Military, I did make contact with TxDOT with Mr. Rene Garza, who is in charge of TxDOT right-of-ways. And he did give us the okay to do something there. It is up to us to come up with a sketch so we can apply for the permit. That's going to be something else that we might be able to discuss as far as are you going to want lights on it? Are you going to want it lit up? Plants around it? If that's the case, we need to find an electrical source. We need to get irrigation to that area to make sure that we keep the vegetation green. And the funding, where are we going to get the funding in order to do this project? That'll be something else that we might need to discuss at a later moment.
Okay. But at least we know we can do something,
Good.
which is a big,
Yes,
it was always questionable.
It's just a matter of, again, like you mentioned, gateway to, from, however you want to put the monument that you want to do in that corner. That's something that we might need to talk about.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
We're looking at the one on Jackson and Old 83. Is that what the sign?
I'm thinking more like the entrance over here on the north side where the expressway and Business 83 is, as you're coming in
Okay.
on the southbound lane.
Yeah.
You can see, on one side, you can see Pharr, welcome to Pharr. And then on the northbound lane also, you have the same thing. Maybe we can incorporate something like that to where we have the colors of the city
Yes.
also on that side as they're entering from
Okay.
the port.
And it would be nice if it's uniform. You got the
Exactly.
south entrance, the same
Yes.
looking as the
But
north
we can
entrance.
have a monument with the wall in the background with the emblem on there and some greenery.
It would have to be lighted,
Shrubs.
of course, yeah.
When that was done, was that a project that had to be incorporated into your budget, I would think?
For which one?
For the one on the north
expressway?
end?
I believe that's TxDOT.
TxDOT, okay.
When TxDOT built the freeways there, I think that was already in the plan.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Cano regarding this? No? Okay. We move on to item 2E, status report on Public Works. Mr. Cano.
Again, I'm happy to announce that on August the 24th, which is this weekend, we will have another OCS event. It will be held at the sports complex right here off of 281 across from the police station. That'll be this weekend.
Would you mention the hours for the public?
The hours are from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And again, we'll have our usual, which will be the roll-offs, and we'll have volunteers, and we should have designated areas where we can clean up. We'll have our tire trailer there, and we'll also have for our electronics, for any
Tires.
kind of metals.
Metals, okay. Very good. Does anybody have any questions regarding OCS, October 24th? No, we're all good? Okay.
Also need to announce I think one of the committee members were asking for additional no dumping signs
Yes.
on our last meeting.
Mhm.
We've got some that are gonna be made, again, outsourced. We're gonna have some signage that have the camera on there that says under surveillance, no dumping. And we're also looking into buying additional game cameras so we can put them in these certain locations so we can see if we can catch somebody doing it or trying to deter them from dumping there in these areas.
Have we used cameras like these before?
We have, we've used them for tires, I believe. And we do have certain areas where it's reduced the amount of tires that have been dumped in that area because of the signs and also because we're putting up these cameras. So people see the camera and they shy away and they, well, unfortunately dump somewhere else. Excuse me.
So I believe, under comments and announcements last month, Mr. Robles brought up the concern that, a citizen brought to his attention that there's a drainage ditch that was located between Sugar Road and Expressway 281, and that there has been a lot of dumping. It's been
Yes.
used for, so that was
Yes, I
in
remember
regards
that.
to that.
To that signage.
Mhm.
If there's no further questions on that one, I have another announcement. I believe, Miss Olivia, you asked about, some signage there at, I believe that little bistro, or that was right there between, right there on Newcomb.
Mhm.
There were some fire lane
Oh, yes.
signs
And
that you
that's
were
been
asking about.
correct.
Well,
That's
those
been-
are gonna be removed. We
They
already
are.
got in contact with the fire department as far as the removal of those signs, and the fire lane does not exist there anymore,
Oh,
so
okay.
we've had the okay from
So
them to go ahead and remove them.
Now people can park there.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Well, that's good, given that their area is short in
Yeah.
parking.
Very short of
It's
space.
very short in parking.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
No fire lane exists. Okay. Wow. That's huge. That opens up at least
Mm-hmm. Like 5
4 or
park-
5
Mm-hmm.
spaces. That's
Yeah.
good. Does anybody have any more questions for Mr. Cano? You've been amazing, you and Cynthia, Ms. Puente, in giving us all our answers and helping us locate things and,
And it is very evident that you and your staff and other people involved in Public Works have been doing a lot of legwork to provide this information to us, and we certainly appreciate that.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Does Ms. Puente have anything to add? No? Okay, thank you, though. Okay. All right, a reminder, we'll move on to 2F. Immediately after this meeting, we're going to take a walking tour of our downtown area. That'll be accompanied with a survey that we're going to fill out. And it shouldn't take very long. Anybody have any questions on that item? Okay, we move on to item 2G. Any comments or announcements from the committee or from those in the audience? Any comments or announcements from anyone? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, on
Mr. Cano.
our next OCS, that one's going to be moved. Originally, it was gonna be at the Pharr complex,
Mm-hmm.
but that one is going to be moved to, I forgot the date. It's gonna be a week before. I remember.
It'll be September 21st.
Yes, it will be September 21st instead of the September 20.
Oh, okay, so we're.
Yes, because on September 28th is when we're going to have the event of the first responders. So we've done it before, but it's very, very hard to try and set up for the event plus do
Right.
OCS. So that date is gonna be for September 21st.
And that location for that
That
OCS
location is
will
gonna be at our facility at the Public
Public
Works.
Works, okay. 8 to 12,
8 to 12, yes.
okay. So the,
28th, right?
Mm-hmm.
that's, okay, so let's start again. August 24th, OCS still is happening at the sports complex.
This
Okay.
weekend, yes.
Yes, this weekend. The next date that Mr. Cano wants us to note is on September 21st, OCS will happen at Public Works instead of on the 28th. So OCS, September 21st, Public Works, 8 to 12. Because the following weekend, September 28th, there's a first responders event that is happening in the evening.
Yes,
It's
but
in the
it takes us all day
Yeah,
to set
it's a
up
big deal.
tents and
It's a big event.
et cetera.
Downtown,
Yes,
it's downtown Pharr.
it'll be from Business 83 all the way to Kelly on Cage.
Yeah, it's a huge event. Okay. So, okay, well, I'm glad you're giving us these dates so we put them on our calendar.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions for that information, on that information at all?
No.
Okay, one comment I just wanted to add again is, just to remind those people, present and also those viewing about our Census 2020 coming, up. It is important for all of us to be counted, and, I just want that awareness to be there. And, I want to leave you also with the idea, I always give a parting comment, and this parting comment has to do with being mindful of reducing our footprint. If we could just think about that every day. But that's it. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 17th. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you back here, so we can continue doing the good work. And after this meeting, immediately following, we'll be taking a tour of downtown. And if I could please have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, so we have Mr. Santana, and we have
A
a
second.
second. Mr. Carranza?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And being that there doesn't seem to be any opposition for this meeting to be adjourned, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.